There's just 3 weeks left to see how you could be our biggest winner this year. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Historic day in the Middle East, historic day here in Washington, D.C. Trump is on a plane home, hopefully arriving any minute now. Don't go anywhere. This is The Late Show. I'm Bev Turner on The Late Show live tonight. The hostages are home, and it's all thanks to one man.
Today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace.
Trump is returning to the United States of America, having secured peace in the Middle East. We're going to count down to the moment that he touches down and returns to the White House. Also, we're going to go live to Tel Aviv, where independent journalist Winston Marshall, who's seen the war carried out before his very eyes, will join me for a special dispatch 44 miles away in Gaza. Destruction, of course. So what is going to happen next?
No more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new life. Feast and dance, the deal is done.
Do you remember that AI image of what it could look like? Well, I'm going to be joined by an architect who has worked in the Gaza Strip, and he'll tell me how realistic Trump's Gaza Riviera vision actually is. And on the grand stage, with the world watching, did our very own Prime Minister manage to avoid embarrassment? Did he?
Come here. Is everything going good?
Very good.
It's very nice of you here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice.
Oh, it's just so awkward. We're going to be diving headfirst, of course, into the stories from tomorrow's papers as well. They are just warm off the printing machines, and we're live in Washington, just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories that America is talking about, including this.
You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
Later this week, we might see a repeat of that, because I can reveal that Donald Trump is set to meet Volodymyr Zelensky. Can the American president stop 2 wars in a week? And take a careful look at this moment. Not many pick this up, but this was possibly a secret row between French President Emmanuel Macron and President Trump. It's getting a little bit macho there, not letting go of each other's hands. But what did they say? I'll tell you all about it later in the show. I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. And I've got 2 fantastic guests with me as well this evening. I've got Tim Dosha on my right, and I've got Laurie Watkins on my left. They're going to be with me for the remainder of the show. Thank you both so much. They have a huge amount to contribute to this topic. But first of all, it has been a momentous day, not just for the Middle East, but for the UK as well. I'll tell you why in just a moment. But what has unfolded over the past 24 hours confirms an epic global shift towards peace. It confirms that President Trump, much to the annoyance of his haters, has been the architect of this new era.
And after so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace, a land and a region that will live, God willing, in peace for all eternity.
That was, of course, earlier today, where President Trump declared a historic dawn of a new Middle East, stating the war is over. Even the most sceptical Trump haters would have been moved by tearful, heart-wrenching reunions of the last 20 surviving hostages held by Hamas, their families overwhelmed by the emotion of holding their loved ones again. And remember this couple were torn apart. They were nicknamed Romeo and Juliet for this moment. Well, today they, amongst others, were reunited. There isn't a dry eye here in the studio, let me tell you. But beyond those beautiful moments begins a major chapter which will affect the United Kingdom. At a time when it feels like we are always at the back of the queue, doesn't it? This crisis arrived instantly onto our streets. Local MPs were elected on Gaza. Protests escalated every week. An assassination at a Manchester synagogue. People who happen to look Middle Eastern reporting aggression. And anybody not on those two sides, frankly, irritated by the attention that it all receives. Well, Now, the UK has something we haven't had in years: breathing space to take stock and get our priorities in order. We imported anger and division from the Middle East, and now it's time to work out what our country wants. Any potential economic benefits, oil markets have steadied already. Good news for British families heading into the winter. A stable Middle East means more stock market certainty, potentially lower petrol prices. Unfortunately, despite clocking up more air miles than an Instagram travel vlogger, Keir Starmer is not a key player on the global stage. We should have a great opportunity here, an obligation even, as the UK, to take on a constructive role and have a slice of the profits that will be generated by the rebuilding of that region. But we've been sidelined, with the US, Qatar and Egypt taking a lead on negotiations. We have deep historical ties in this region. We should now reassert ourselves, shouldn't we, as a mediator, a partner in rebuilding Gaza? But do you think this government are up to the job? There's one more dimension we must discuss tonight: illegal migration. Conflict in Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan and most recently Gaza have all contributed to the sharp rise in asylum claims and displaced lives. Channel crossings, remember, surged by over 60% during periods of heightened violence in Gaza and Lebanon last year. The British public has grown weary of a broken asylum system that cannot distinguish between the genuinely persecuted and those exploiting chaos for financial gain. The instability in the Middle East has given cover to both. Not anymore. This should stabilise populations, allow people to rebuild where they are, not flee to where they are not welcome. Because when bombs stop falling, families stop fleeing. When economies rebuild, smugglers lose business. Starmer will claim credit for falling migration numbers or blame success on the threat of digital ID. But will you buy it? Well, tonight the world must thank President Donald Trump and his team for his success. It is a turning point for the region, for America, and yes, for Britain too. Let me know your thoughts. gbnews.com/your say this evening. So let's now say a proper hello to my panel. Executive Director at Unleash Prosperity, Tim Dozier. Evening, Tim.
Good evening.
And former Obama Policy Advisor, Laurie Watkins. Good evening, Laurie. So great to meet you both. Right, first of all then, Laurie, as I presume you're not a Trump fan, how does it feel tonight? Is it tricky for people who've been criticising him for years?
Oh, let's not start off on that. It's not that I'm not a Trump fan. I think I will give credit where credit is due. I focus a lot on the Middle East. What has been achieved is tremendous. It is monumental. I hope that it does bring peace to the region. There is more stability for all the reasons that you just gave in your opener. And so this is a day to celebrate this deal. It's more importantly time to celebrate these hostages being returned to their families and out of captivity. And I just think it's a great day. Now, the devil is in the details of this peace plan, so that hasn't been released yet, except for a very short list. So I'm very interested to see what that's going to look like. But yeah,
do you credit
where the rubber meets the road?
Do you credit President Trump with it?
Absolutely, full stop.
Yeah. Tim.
Yeah, it's hope. That's the word that as I watch this incredible footage, I see hope.
Yeah.
I see that there is a chance to make something wrong right after so many, I mean, I think 80,000 rockets have been fired since October 7th, 2023, something like that. You have these prisoners, 2,000 prisoners on the Palestine side. You have the hostages that were released today. It is something that is so remarkable, and it also speaks to moral clarity. This got done because President Trump did not waver. Even when the UK, even when France, even when all of our allies in Europe said, no, we need to bow to this. We need to make Palestine a state. President Trump said, we're not going there. We want the hostages back. We want this war to end. We want the blood to stop before we even talk about anything else. And you know what? They bent, and he won.
OK, thank you, guys. Let's go now to speak to a man that I have been desperate to talk to all day, actually, and been desperate to talk to him since news of this peace resolution was sorted, which is the legendary broadcaster Maajid Nawaz. Because Maajid, good evening. You were in the studio with me here in DC. You were going to the White House, and 24 hours later, we had a peace deal. Can you take some credit for this, my friend?
I can't be that bold on air to be taking any credit for anything, Beth, but it's fantastic. I agree with your guests. It is a historic day. Of course, here in London, where I'm speaking to you from, some of those who were the ceasefire now crowd, who were demanding an immediate stop to the war and a ceasefire, now that that's been achieved, are somewhat either silent or negative about these developments. It's all very strange. They wanted to stop the war. The war has now stopped. Hamas has declared an end to the war and thanked President Trump for ending it. And these guys here on these protests are saying that this is not an end to the war. It's simply a pause, and we must fight on until we annihilate and end the state of Israel, which isn't what peace is about. And I'm not sure, last time I checked, peace didn't mean war and war didn't mean peace.
Majid, since the 60s, we've had some of the best lawyers, military experts, global leaders in the world trying to sort this out. How did Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner and Donald Trump, basically men who build golf courses and apartment blocks, manage to sort this out? How?
Well, for those of us who've been following the situation, first of all, let me say that the Abraham Accords that President Trump achieved in his first term 5 years ago from September the 15th, this has been a long time in the planning. What Trump did, and is part of the genius of not necessarily just the man Trump, but the policy of those who backed him in his first term and through into this term as well, is that they completely changed the dynamic of what this problem, how it was perceived in the Middle East. The flaw that a lot of Middle East policy wants, but mainly, especially the politicians, the flaw with which they approached this situation was that this was a bilateral conflict between Israelis and Palestinians. And in some instances, if you're Keir Starmer, suddenly they made it a unilateral issue by simply declaring recognition for a Palestinian state. The truth is, as Trump's peace plan now demonstrates, that this was all along, Bev, a regional problem. Trump's innovative approach was to address it as a regional problem, to speak directly to the powers in the region that were backing Hamas, for example, such as Iran and other regional players, speaking directly to the Saudis, to the Turks, to the Egyptians, to the Pakistanis even, a nuclear power, the Muslim world's only nuclear power, to say, listen, all of you are involved. We all need to get together to solve this regionally. And that's the culmination of what we just saw in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. And that was that the Gaza Peace Declaration has been signed by Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Egypt. Turkey is a NATO member, a military power. They're guaranteeing security, peace, and prosperity now in the Middle East. We've also got the Indonesian president, the leader of the most populous Muslim nation, now on his way to visit Israel. It's truly unprecedented, Bev, and the reason this has all been made possible is because we changed the paradigm and approached it regionally.
And I made light of the fact that they're property developers, but I do wonder whether there is something important in that, because Trump has effectively come at this by saying you don't negotiate peace, you build peace in a metaphorical sense. But he's also offered the temptation of literally building the area into a successful hub in the Middle East. How appealing to the invested parties in that region was that attitude, Majid? Because I'd never heard anybody look at that region and say, you can all be rich, not just the oil barons, you can all have a slice of this.
Well, this was, if you go back to, he was mocked for it at the time, Bev, the whole Riviera notion. But actually, this is what he was doing, because now in Gaza, it's not actually Palantir or the Israelis that are in for rebuilding Gaza. Actually, the truth is, the Saudis have pledged the money, and you're going to again have those Emirati and Gulf financiers backing the regeneration of Gaza with transitionally a UN peacekeeping force, but essentially Muslim peacekeepers on the ground. So whether that results in a two-state solution or any other regional solution to the issue, the redevelopment of Gaza will be funded by Gulf Arabs. And so if you can, and this is part of Jared Kushner's approach to this question, if you can motivate them by personal interest and profit, as well as the morality of, you know, we need peace, we need a better world, then you see what we ended up with, which was the regional players getting involved and working with Trump on it instead of antagonizing his peace approaches.
Yeah, OK, well, Majid, you may not take any credit for it, being the founder of the Accordists, for flying in and suddenly we have a peace deal, but there's a little part of me that thinks that you had something to do with this, Majid Nawaz. Whatever you do, anyway, keep doing what you're doing because it is amazing. You are the voice of reason. You are the oracle. You want to know what's around the corner? Follow Majid Nawaz on his socials and he'll tell you everything. Thank you so much for staying up late to join me this evening. So good to see you. Right, let me know your thoughts this evening, everybody at home, won't you? gbnews.com/your say. Still to come, though, tonight on The Late Show Live. After more than 2 years in captivity, 20 Israeli hostages are in the arms of their families. Again, not a dry eye in the room. I don't tire of watching these images. This is humanity at its best right here. We're going to be talking to one man who was in Hostage Square today for this historic day. We're going to be going live to Tel Aviv. Don't go anywhere. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Come to Washington and have a meeting on Friday with President. And of course, I have some more meetings, which are also important for me.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. I am Bev Turner. That is, of course, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirming that he's going to meet Donald Trump this Friday at the White House. What might that be about? We're going to be talking about it in just a moment. First of all, though, tonight, all 20 living Israeli hostages have been reunited with their families after they were held for over 2 years in Hamas captivity. In exchange, almost 2,000 Palestinian prisoners were released. And one man who was at Hostages Square for this historic day joins me now, Winston Marshall. Thank you for your time this evening, Winston. Right, tell me, how was today? What was it like? Just paint a picture for me in your inimitable way.
Oh, Bev, it has been jubilant here in Tel Aviv. There's just joy down every street. I was trying to think, it was a bit like imagining what it would be like if England won the World Cup. Of course, I don't know what that's like, but it was more than that. It was actually religious. So the video you're watching there is footage I took actually outside the Beilinson Hospital, the Schneider branch of the Beilinson Hospital in northeast Tel Aviv, and we can see a helicopter coming in, dropping off 8 more, and then after him, another 4 hostages who had been in captivity for 2 years. And you know, this is actually a holy week in the Jewish calendar. It's Simchat Torah, and which we know, of course, because that was when the October 7th horror happened. We knew it was a holy day for the Jews here in Israel. And just there filming with these people, children, grandparents, whole families all together, tears of joy are flooding the streets of all of Israel. And into the night, they've been celebrating, singing. I've never seen anything like it. And, you know, it's bittersweet because it's in some ways what's going on in Gaza, it's not exactly finished, and Hamas have certainly not upheld their side of the bargain. For example, only 4 of the 28 dead bodies they promised to return of the hostages have been returned. But as you say, 20 of the 20 of the remaining living hostages, all of them who are male because they'd killed all the female ones, have been returned. So the feeling here in Israel is actually it's I think a joy that the war is over, and it's not completely over in the sense that there's still the tricky issue of Gaza. But keep in mind, hundreds of thousands of Israelis were deployed in the IDF. Over 900 were killed in Gaza in the Gaza war alone. So this is a country that is completely exhausted. Every element of society, of the every family has been affected by this war. They want it over. Now, this day was also incredible, of course, because President Trump flew in. So we had all of these things happening simultaneously. In the morning, we see quite literally over our heads Air Force One coming in, and it flew low over Tel Aviv because they wanted to show Trump the giant display that they'd put across the beach of the city, including a little silhouette of President Trump. And they wanted him to see that before he landed on his very short trip here. And I understand that he spoke to hostages and hostages' families and to get a sense of their experiences before he darted off to Egypt for that deal. And now you can see on the screen families reunited with their children who had been kept hostage. In the hospital that I visited, they showed the rooms that they prepared, and actually the 2 of the hostages that returned where I was were musicians, and they put pianos in their room so that they could play piano. Actually, one of them was made blind. This is one of the hostages called Alon Ohel, was made blind, but he's a great musician. So for the first time, he's going to be able to play again. And it was just a weight has been lifted off the whole country, and frankly, it seems like across the Middle East, there's now this sense of hope, as your former guest, your prior guest Majid was describing, that actually we can have a Middle East settlement where there's actually peace in the region.
And you, Winston, you have a good idea of who President Trump is and the people who he surrounds himself with. Why do you think it is these characters who have been able to achieve something which some of the greatest political negotiating minds, you might argue, could not do for decades. Why them and why now?
I think a lot of that really is on Jared Kushner. And now, of course, Witkoff is a part of this, but Jared Kushner, in Trump's first term, is President Trump's son-in-law, married to Ivanka Trump. In his first term, he spent many years trying to put together a Trump plan, but eventually it would become the Abraham Accords, which he had 4 nations sign in 2020. And the difference with Jared Kushner, and he describes this brilliantly actually in his book, is that there were decades of the State Department saying it has to be a certain way that you deal with international diplomacy. And he was like, no, they've never got it right, so what's the other way? So he goes and he went and listened to everyone. He went on these trips. He went to the Emiratis. He went to the Bahrainis. He went to the Saudis. And he listened. He went to Mahmoud Abbas in the West Bank, and he listened. He didn't get a very good impression of Mahmoud Abbas, not least because he's a Holocaust-denying kind of wannabe king. But he listened to everyone, listened to what they wanted, and he worked out, actually, the Muslim nations, what they want is access to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and that the Palestine territorial issue was a separate one. And for decades, basically since the beginning of the founding of Israel, the American diplomacy and Western diplomacy have always thought that those two things were separate, but actually he managed to separate them. So he brokered these deals between Israel and these other nations on that premise, and it's really quite phenomenal. Jared Kushner, actually, I saw him walking around Tel Aviv. He's like a rock star here. Everywhere he goes, and he was with Ivanka, people burst into applause for the man. He blessed are the peacemakers, and it really seems that he's. Another thing to keep in mind is because he's being the son-in-law is actually important. Here in the Middle East and across the Arab world, being related to the leader, being related here, in this case, to the president, actually adds gravitas, adds weight to his presence in the room. And I'm just incredibly impressed by this fella.
That's so interesting, Winston. I hadn't thought about it like that. That is fascinating. Thank you so much for giving us your time and that superb perspective on a historic day. Honestly, brilliant. Thank you so much, Winston Marshall there. He's got an amazing podcast if you want to dig it out. Let me bring my panel back in. Tim Dosha and Laurie Watkins. I haven't met you two before. Sorry about the pause there for a moment. New panellists, we like to introduce them to GB News. It's a huge thrill as part of this new job is meeting new guests. Tim, I thought that was so interesting what he was saying, because, of course, the easy criticism is that it is nepotism. There are people saying, oh, well, it's only Trump's son-in-law. He's only in there to make money, isn't he? Like, that's the best criticism that they can think of today. I hadn't thought about it from the perspective of family in that region is everything.
Yeah, it's a legacy.
Yeah.
This is a legacy thing for President Trump, which is why he can stand with moral clarity here and stand up against countries saying, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this. He said, no, this is personal for me. And let's just remember, President Trump got made fun of for the Riviera thing, of the development of Gaza, all that stuff. Well, make no mistake about it, the Abraham Accords are successful because they are based in economic cooperation between these nations and Israel. Where they once were enemies, now they are partners. There's skin in the game. And that's exactly what, make no mistake about it, that is exactly what President Trump was doing when he retweeted those AI videos of the Gaza Strip being developed, because that right there, if Hamas leaves power and stops stealing money that is given to the region and enriching themselves, and they let the people take over, the development of Gaza is actually possible, and it can happen.
And should be one of the most beautiful places in the world. Laurie, when you were working with the Obama administration, would this approach have worked then? Is it just that he didn't kind of consider the idea of bringing people together under the guise of making it profitable? What mistakes were made that means this is only happening today?
Well, one of the mistakes, well, I'll say one of the pluses that has worked out tremendously is Trump tightening the screws on Netanyahu. I don't think enough people are talking about that in the media, that he is the first president, and again, I will give him credit right now. he is the first president to tighten the screws and put pressure on Netanyahu and not let him kind of run all over the United States and use, we are friends of Israel, we are the closest partners, to kind of get away with whatever he wanted to do. And Trump was like, no, you're not going to continue getting away with everything that you've been doing. I'm going to put timelines, I'm going to put guardrails, and we're going to work on policy to make sure that this moves forward. Politically speaking, yes, Trump wanted this ended immediately. He said during his entire campaign, right, it was a huge part of his platform, that within 24 hours of him becoming president and being elected, that he was going to be able to negotiate this deal and have an immediate ceasefire. That didn't happen. We know what happened, right? It's been over a year, a long time, 2 years, but a long time coming since when he made these announcements. And so I think not enough is being paid attention to that. There was also talk that Trump found out that Netanyahu was going around to other world leaders and saying that he was the one, pulling the strings of the puppet, and Trump found out about that. It's because Trump has these relationships and he has his ear to the ground, and he has people on the ground, including who we were just talking about, his son-in-law, who is very influential, and it's not going to be possible for him to do that anymore. And Netanyahu wasn't even disinvited. He was told that if he came today, all of these Arab leaders would not participate, Erdogan being the biggest of them all. He literally, I don't know if you reported this, was flying around in his airplane waiting to see if he was going to attend or not. And as soon as he didn't, as soon as he was out, then they all flew in. I think that is huge, and we should be talking more about that as we continue to talk about the details of this plan as they come out.
Yeah. Well, but just for a minute, if we just pause, it will be remarkable. This will be a world before any of us were born, when there wasn't perpetual conflict in the Middle East.
Yeah, think about what the potential. Like I said, it's hope. It's hope. There's a long road to go here, Bev.
Yeah.
There's a long road to go here. But I just wanted to say that we got to be careful with these rumors about showing weakness between Netanyahu and Trump, and there's friction and there's drama. That's TV stuff. I don't believe that's the case. Yeah. If you have that going on, you don't have Trump in the Knesset. If you have that going on, you don't have that remarkable scene in Egypt where Trump is signing with us. You just don't have that.
Yeah.
What you have here is you have the full weight and the full office of the President of the United States of America, somebody who is restoring that office to greatness, something that Biden just completely ran into the ground, something that completely ceded control to the UN, to other global governing bodies. This is Trump's show right now. And he also then needs to go through with, as Lori was talking about, the next steps in this plan, this 20-point plan that we have to restore Gaza. So it's on him. He owns it. And I just wanted to give him the credit for that, and caution against some of these rumors that are going around here.
Can we just talk about the worst case scenario? I know this might feel like the wrong thing to do on a night like this, but I was looking through the 20-point Gaza plan. We just heard then from Winston that actually the deceased Israelis have not been returned. Who knows what sort of sticking point that will be. Hamas have got to decommission their weapons.
Disarmament, absolutely.
That has not happened yet. Full humanitarian aid enters to rebuild the infrastructure. This is Trump's 20-point plan that I'm looking at here. Economic plan to rebuild Gaza with global investment and job creation. No reason to think that won't happen. As we were hearing, the money is coming locally. They're all delighted about that. No forced displacement. People are free to stay, leave, or return.
Yeah.
That remains to be seen. Hamas excluded from governance. Where are they going to go? I still think there is a huge question. And bear in mind that 2,000 Hamas or Palestinians have been released tonight. We're not talking about them.
Right.
Why, Tim?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that this because they're prisoners. They were fighting against the Israelis where the hostages were taken. They were raped, they were beaten, they were killed, they were their feet were stripped off the skin from their feet so they couldn't run away. I mean, it was horrific what was happening, and so I think there's that dynamic there that Hamas is. But just remember here, we have to make sure that Hamas lays their weapons down. Lori was talking about this earlier. They might say, okay, fine, take government, but don't take our weapons. Well, that doesn't work.
That's not going to work.
That does not work.
And I think why we're not hearing not even here in the United States, no one's really talking about these prisoners, is because they were a bargaining chip. They are not martyrs, right? Just like Tim was saying, they are not seen as the same level as the hostages, right? They are seen as people who committed atrocities, who for decades have been trying to completely destroy Israel and Israelis, and they're not the heroes here.
Yeah.
So while some Palestinians, you might see videos of them celebrating their return, you know, that's a different story. But I just want to say one thing, if you'll allow me. Diplomacy has been turned on its head today. I think traditional diplomacy, how we operate, not just the United States, but the world, is taking notice of how you can negotiate, how you can use the carrot and the stick, and actually get policy, foreign policy, and peace in the Middle East
And it starts with relationships. It starts with relationships. Taking people as you find them, sitting down and talking to them, even if it's not the popular thing to do. Right, still to come on The Late Show Live.
Doing very well. We're very proud of him because we knew each other from the beginning. The first time I met, it was in a hotel, and I was going to meet him, and then Hillary Clinton was following me.
That was President Trump hilariously reflecting on his first meeting with Egypt's president. Also tonight, the Daily Mail leads with Noah's hero is home. We're going to be looking at all the front pages in just a minute. This is The Late Show Live on a very special day, only on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Come here. Is everything going good?
Very good.
That's very nice that you're here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice.
we shouldn't laugh, but me and the panel are all giggling there. If you're listening on the radio, that was the moment where Donald Trump turned around from his lectern to welcome Keir Starmer and said, "It was nice for you to be here." Oh, I only gave him 20 minutes warning, and they all turned up, and Keir Starmer had to just turn his back and walk away to the back of the stage. It was mortifying. What did you make of it, Laurie?
Oh, it was embarrassing.
It was, wasn't it?
I'm glad that wasn't me in that situation.
But we could all feel it though, right, Tim? You might have been moments. It reminded me of sort of school where the head might have asked you to come up to the stage and then just goes, "Yeah, thanks very much." Back you go.
It's just funny because you saw them signing the agreements there, and then you see in the background this backdrop of it's almost like a chorus of losers. Like this is like they're singing the hymnal of loser because they don't have a seat at the table, and then this is just the cherry right on top of the ice cream, and it really was a kind of a cringeworthy moment.
It was mortifying. It's mortifying. Right, let's have a look at the newspaper front pages, shall we? The Daily Mail is leading with "Noah's hero is home." Very memorable image there on the bottom of the paper, the screen grab. That was the Israeli girl, Noah Arjamani, and her boyfriend. They were separated. Well, they're home together tonight. It doesn't mean they'll have a simple journey ahead of them. I don't want to romanticize these things, no doubt. They've both been through a huge amount, but that picture of him kissing her cheek, just wonderful. Israel's day of joy, says the Mail. Daily Telegraph are leading with, of course, Trump. Let's end Ukraine war. Moving the story on. This is because of the news out of the White House today. I was one of the first people to tell you at home that this is happening, that President Volodymyr Zelensky will be there on Friday to talk to President Trump. The Express, the long, painful nightmare is over. Great photograph on the picture, the front page of the Express there, of the family in the back of a truck. And what else have we got? We've got the Sun, freed from hell, they're saying, with pictures of all 20 Israeli hostages home at last, and all smiling, jubilant pictures. And the New York Times, they're leading with the return of Israel's living hostages from Gaza signals a time to heal. With the releases, Israelis baked in a joyous moment of unifying national redemption after months of agonizing, polarizing war. And the Washington Post here in DC, they're saying world leaders discuss the future of Gaza as Israelis and Palestinians celebrate President Donald Trump attending a summit on Gaza's future in Egypt, whilst Israel and Palestine celebrated the release of hostages and prisoners. Let me know your thoughts, gbnews.com/your say. Very rare, actually, when the newspapers all around the world lead on the same picture and the same story. Let's go now to comedian Leo Kearse, who's down the line for me in our Paddington studio. Leo, thank you so much for joining us. It is joyous, isn't it? And I see those pictures, I don't know about you, but I can't stop watching the footage of the hostages being back with their families, because they are so moving and so real and raw. I've just been terribly moved by them. Have you?
Yeah, and it's been such a long time. I think we forget that it's been, what, 2 years? 2 years that they've been stuck in, some Hamas tunnel, having a horrible time. And obviously a lot of them didn't make it as well. What's surprising with the peace deal being announced is how unhappy the people who've been marching for peace for the last 2 years are about it. They seem furious that Trump got peace. I think they'd rather, somebody on their own side got the peace deal. But obviously, you're not going to see a competent socialist. But it's crazy to see people still out, still marching. I mean, what do they want an end to peace now? Do they want the war back? Maybe that's the way it's going to go. And also to be marching literally the day of the attack at the synagogue in Manchester, where you think, of all the days, maybe just don't be doing a sort of Islamist-aligned march, waving your Palestinian flags and your ISIS flags, just one day. You know what I mean? We're not quite a caliphate yet.
I do. I do know exactly what you mean. There's been some interesting body language moments as well, Leo, haven't there, today? I just love watching Donald Trump on the global stage, because he is literally, he owns the room. No one's got a chance. You've just not got a chance, especially if you're a tiny little weak man like Macron. Should we have a quick look at the handshake that took place there? So here we go. What are you seeing here, Leo?
Oh my God, this is Trump. And bear in mind, Trump's 79. We get told by the Guardian and other mainstream media that he's frail, he's weak. No, the guy's like still jetting around the globe, winning arm wrestling competitions with Macron, who's only 22, I think. Yeah, I mean, it just shows, you know, Trump can still do it. I mean, I feel sorry for Macron's osteopath, who's going to have to realign the bones in his hand after all that.
Well, we now know what they were saying, right? So this is brilliant. So this is Nicola Hickling, who's a lip reader, and she told the Daily Mail that nice to see you, so you agreed, Trump says to Macron. So that's interesting. So you agreed, so maybe he wasn't going to be there. And he says, are you being genuine? Trump says to Macron, and Macron says, of course. And then Trump says, OK, so now I want to know why you hurt me. I already know. And he said, I only hurt those who hurt others, Trump tells Macron while pointing at the cameras. It's all a little bit mysterious. So Trump says, OK, so now I know you want, so now I know you, so now I want to know why you hurt me. I already know. I'm making a mess of this, Leo.
Well, it's
the first time I've seen this.
This is very sort of Mexican soap opera. It's, I mean, it's nice to see this sort of Sopranos level chat. I'm glad you got a lip reader. I mean, I don't know, have we checked that? Have we verified that that's what they're saying? They could have just been talking about the weather. But yeah, I mean, I think this is the conversations that people have behind closed doors. And one of the incredibly exciting things about Trump is that, you know, as we saw with Zelensky, when Zelensky visited in the Oval Office, sometimes the conversations that previously happened behind closed doors happen right centre stage, and everybody gets to see that drama unfolding.
You needed a lip reader, frankly, to work out what I was trying to say, interpreting these words. We might go back to that, because you're right, it was like some mafiosa exchange then. So now I want to know why you hurt me. I already know. All a bit weird. We'll be back with you in the next hour, Leo, so maybe you can do some investigation into what was actually said between the two of them, because I think that was just brilliant. If you could do it in a Mexican accent as well, that'd be ace. Right, still to come on The Late Show Live tonight.
To ensure the success of this effort, my plan calls for the creation of a new international oversight body, the Board of Peace.
Well, he was there, of course, today, Tony Blair. It looks like he's going to be part of the Gaza Board of Peace, even though Hamas said they don't want him anywhere near it. Let's talk about that after this quick break. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised. exist.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've had calls from all of the leaders of countries. They all want to be a part. I mean, the leaders themselves, they're not going to send somebody. They want to be a part of it. And I like Tony. I've always liked Tony, but I want to find out that he's an acceptable choice to everybody.
Welcome back to the Late Show Live. That was President Donald Trump on board Air Force One yesterday, revealing that maybe he's unsure if former Prime Minister Tony Blair would serve on a new board of peace that is intended to oversee the governance of Gaza. I promise you, it wasn't me that got in Trump's ear, not on this occasion. But let's get the take of political commentator Paul Richards, author of the book Tony Blair in his own words. Paul, if I could get the ear of the president, I would tell him Tony Blair is a totally unsuitable man for this position. And I'm going to try, Paul. So tell me why I would be wrong.
Well, hello. First of all, I think we should just rejoice that the hostages are home, and it has been a peace deal, as that's a very important part of it, and maybe reflect on Hamas's role in this, of locking people up for 2 years. I don't know what kind of animals do that, but that's what we've seen. Now, why is Trump even speculating that Tony Blair might be somebody for this role? Well, he was obviously British Prime Minister for 10 years at the highest levels. Second of all, he was the UN envoy to the Middle East. When he stopped being an MP. Tony Blair was there at the heart of the negotiations after 2007, operating out of the King David Hotel and, you know, in the absolute heart of the region. So he knows many of the key players. But the most important reason is that if you look at this deal, this peace process that Trump has led, it's got remarkable similarities to the Northern Ireland peace process, which is why Steve Witkoff singled out Jonathan Powell, who was the architect of that peace process, one of them anyway, in the UK. And so that Tony Blair has got experience of a successful peace process in Northern Ireland, which he can bring to the table when it comes to the Middle East. So he's a remarkably
come on, Paul. Mo Mowlam did that peace deal. Why? Because she was really good at relationships, and that's what we've learned in the last 24 hours. In fact, watching the negotiations in the Middle East, as we've heard with Jared Kushner and the work that he did on this. Relationships are everything. Tony Blair is in it for himself. Tony Blair is always in everything for himself. And the world knows that now. They don't trust him.
He's a 72-year-old millionaire. Why does he want more gain for himself? He wants to see a peace process that actually works, and he wants to bring his experience to bear on that. Now, you're quite right. It's only speculation at this stage, and Trump's remarks on Air Force One there shows you that it is still in play, and it's not something that's done and dusted. This board will have all kinds of different people on it, but it will be chaired by Trump himself, as far as we can tell. But, you know, for the peace to last, and for it not just to be a kind of important moment and then a return to the hostilities, I think it needs all people with all kinds of experiences to come forward and offer whatever experience they've got, whatever, you know, where we can learn from peace processes where they've been successful, like our own one in Northern Ireland. You know, we take it for granted, don't we, a little bit, that we've had peace for nearly 30 years, but it's a remarkable thing. When those of us that were growing up in the 70s and the 80s could remember the violence that came to an end. So let's hope the same for Gaza and Israel.
We need to wrap it up, but good to see you. Paul Richards there, author of the book Tony Blair in his own words. Lots more to come. Get in touch on that as well. Here's your weather though.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. It's a dull start for many of us, and that's the way it's likely to continue through the rest of the day, with high pressure in charge, but that high pressure trapping a lot of low cloud, even some drizzle and some mist. But it's not cloudy everywhere. There are some decent breaks for, say, parts of West Wales, the southwest, as well as central and western Scotland. In fact, that's where the lion's share of sunshine will be heading into the afternoon. The thickest cloud towards the east and the southeast, where there'll also be some drizzly showers from time to time. Temperatures under the thick cloud, 14 to 16 Celsius, but where we get some sunshine coming through, could get up to the high teens in places, for example, parts of western Scotland, although the north of Scotland subject to cloudier skies and some light showers from time to time, particularly for Shetland and Orkney. 11 Celsius as we end the day here. A lot of clear skies though remaining through the Highlands and to the Western Isles as well. Blue skies, beautiful afternoon and evening to come. But for much of the Midlands, the south and east of England, that's where the thickest cloud will remain. Some cloud breaks towards western fringes, and where we do get cloud breaks overnight, temperatures will fall into the mid or even low single figures, perhaps a touch of frost in places, even some mist and fog patches by dawn. But for many, we keep the cloud, and that cloud will continue to give some light showers, particularly through the North Sea coast and into the English Channel coast as we start off Wednesday. But Wednesday starts similar to Thursday, with a lot of low cloud around, that low cloud drifting somewhat aimlessly across the country. Some reasonable cloud breaks, some sunshine coming through in the south of England, south and west Wales and northern Scotland. But elsewhere, it's simply another cloudy day with temperatures a little bit lower compared with Tuesday, mid-teens for many of us.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I know we say historic day often, but today truly has been historic in the Middle East and also here in DC. Donald Trump is making his way back to the White House as we speak. This is The Late Show Live. Tonight on The Late Show Live with me, Bev. The hostages are home, and it's all thanks to one man.
Today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace.
President Trump is returning here to DC. He's on Air Force One. He has secured peace. In the Middle East, we're going to count down to the moment that he touches down. And we're going to go live to Tel Aviv, where an independent journalist who's seen the war carried out before his very eyes will be talking to us. What is Tel Aviv going to look like?
There's no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new life. Feast and dance, the deal is done.
We're going to be talking to an architect who's worked in the Gaza Strip. He'll be telling me whether Trump's Gaza Riviera vision, as we just said then, that was the AI version, is that going to be realistic? And on the grand stage with the world watching, did our Prime Minister manage to assert himself, look statesmanlike and avoid embarrassment? Did he, Eck?
Come here. Is everything going good?
Very good.
That's very nice of you, yeah. These people all came in like 20-minute notice.
It's just so awkward. We're going to be looking at all the stories from tomorrow's papers as well, hours before they hit the shelves. We are, of course, live in Washington, D.C., just yards from the White House. We're going to bring you the stories that America is talking about as well in this hour, including this.
You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
I loved that moment in the Oval Office when President Trump served Volodymyr Zelensky's backside on a plate. Well, will the American president stop 2 wars in a week? He may just. Also, take a look at this. Not many have picked up on this, but this was a secret row between the French president and President Trump. I will try and tell you what they said later in the show. I made a bit of a mess of it in the last hour, but we are getting it translated. We will tell you what was going on. It was quite something. I am Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. This is the second hour. My panel are still with me as well. We don't have any breaks, just the weather at past. Don't go anywhere. So today, world leaders joined the American president at the official signing ceremony for his Gaza peace plan. They were all in Egypt. More than 20 world leaders, including Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and former Prime Minister Tony Blair, attended the summit. And here was President Trump earlier today.
And I've heard for years, this is the biggest deal, it'll never happen. For years, long before I ran for office, that this is the Middle East. It's the biggest, most complicated deal. And also, it's the place that could lead to tremendous problems like World War III. They always talked about World War III would start in the Middle East, and that's not going to happen.
Let's talk now to Fred Fleets, Vice Chair at the America First Policy Institute and former Chief of Staff of the Trump National Security Council. Fred, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining me again. So, listen, just jubilation, first of all. Give me your thoughts after such an epic day.
Well, it's an historic day. It's a miraculous day. Just a few weeks ago, most experts thought these hostages would never get out. There'd never be a ceasefire. Hamas would never stop fighting. But President Trump, with his leadership and stubborn determination to stop this war, got an agreement where all the living hostages were released at the beginning of the deal. And he got a ceasefire and a partial Israeli withdrawal. It's a huge win just so far. There's obstacles to go to get Hamas to live up to its agreements, to disarm, to turn over control of the Gaza Strip to an international force, but we're off to a very strong start.
It seems like there was this sort of decades-old misconception, Fred, that no Arab state would ever make peace with Israel before there was the creation of a Palestinian state. And maybe it's because this deal was brokered by people who are not at heart politicians. They are negotiators, they're real estate agents, they are businessmen. Is that what made the difference? They ripped up the rule book.
It was a pragmatic approach similar to the Abraham Accords. It deals with the reality that most Arab states don't like Hamas, they don't like the Palestinians, but they want to honor the idea of a Palestinian state. So what Trump did is he said, well, the Palestinian Authority will have a role in governing Gaza when it reforms. There's a pathway to a Palestinian state. After the Palestinians de-radicalize, which frankly may be never, but it's certainly in the far future, that was enough to get all the Arab states on board, even the Palestinian Authority, which was an incredible achievement. That Trump was able to keep the Israelis happy. They don't really want to concede any of this, but they were prepared to accept it as a distant aspiration.
What happens now, Fred? Are we genuinely staring down the barrel, do you think, of decades of peace in the Middle East? Because the reverberations and the repercussions of that would be felt in every single country around the world.
We have to be cautiously optimistic. Hamas does not have a good record in keeping its word. I hope there was a lot of time spent at that peace conference in Cairo today on how to put together this international force for Gaza and how to deploy it as soon as possible. That force has to get on the ground, take the weapons from Hamas, and tell them they have to give over control of this area. If that doesn't happen, Israel may return to war.
May I ask you, while I have you with your expertise of having been the Chief of Staff for the Trump National Security Council, what happens on Friday when President Volodymyr Zelensky arrives at the White House? Do you share my concern that rather than this being the end of a war, it's potentially the escalation if Zelensky comes cap in hand for more missiles and is granted them? It's not what anybody would want, is it, Fred? I don't know.
I think success breeds success, and Trump has a lot of leverage right now to use in the war in Ukraine. He's shown Zelensky and Putin what he can accomplish, that he can be a tough but fair intermediary. Yes, Zelensky wants advanced weapons to attack Russia with, but I think the focus is to get an agreement right now, to build on what Trump accomplished in the Middle East, to say to Putin, Mr. Putin, you will never get a deal as good as you will get with Trump. And if you don't make this deal, you're simply going to continue to ruin your country, ruin your economy, ruin your military.
So you do think this is going to be what then on Friday? Is it going to be a show of strength to Putin? Or is he going to have to? Because if you think about what he's done here in the Middle East, it's, as we've said, it's about relationships, it's about compromise. Both sides have had to compromise, or all sides have had to compromise in some way. How do you do that with Putin and Zelensky when they are also in such an intractable conflict?
Since Putin has shown no interest in peace and has been defying Trump's peace efforts, Trump has turned towards giving significantly more support to Ukraine and to Putin, which is infuriating Putin. If he doesn't like that, he can come to the negotiating table and start dealing. If he doesn't, I think Trump's going to implement some very tough economic and energy sanctions, and much more capable weapons will be given to Ukraine. But I don't want that to be the first step. I want to go to non-military options before there is an effort the U.S. is involved in that could escalate the war.
Yeah, here. Fred, great to see you. Fred Flight's there, Vice Chair of the America First Policy Institute and former Chief of Staff of the Trump National Security Council. Let's bring in my panel. Executive Director at Unleash Prosperity, Tim Doscher, and former Obama Policy Advisor and Principal LFW Strategies, Laurie Watkins. Sorry, Laurie. Laurie, let me come to you first then on that issue of what happens on Friday. Do you have a gut instinct as to where that conflict goes next?
I think that President Trump wants a peace deal there as well. He is pretty frustrated, as he's indicated over the last few press conferences, talking about President Putin, and that he's saying one thing and then the next day doing something else, or even hours later, right? That he's interested in peace, and then he goes ahead and blasts and sends, 250 drone strikes over parts of Ukraine. Right before I came over to your studio, I was at a reception because a lot of folks are in town for AUSA here, and the former NATO ally commander, Admiral Rule, was there, and he gave a talk, and all he talked about was the threat of Russia, okay? That Russia is our biggest threat right now, that the United States should be paying a lot more attention and seriously of what Putin is saying, and not let him waver back and forth. And these visits and these meetings and these calls, what are we really getting down to? What has happened? He needs to put the pressure like he did on Netanyahu with Putin. That's what I would like to see.
I think he's disappointed in Putin, would be my assessment, because he did say, didn't he, before he was elected, Trump said, I will solve Ukraine in 24 hours. And he said the Middle East wouldn't have happened on my watch at all. Well, it's taken him a while to get that sorted, much longer than I think he would have expected. But I think he's really frustrated by Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. I think that there are a lot of putting on airs, we're good friends, all that stuff. That's fine. But there is a reality on the ground here, and that is 1/3 of all tax revenue that comes into the Russian government coffers is from oil and gas. And the thing that is continuing to happen is Ukraine continues to take their refineries, the Russian refineries, offline, crippling Russia's ability to collect those tax revenues to then fund the war that they continue to perpetuate against Ukraine. Trump knows it. He knows that their interest rates are sky high. I think is 9 or 10%. Imagine that, 9 or 10% interest rates. And he sees an opportunity here to capitalize on the fact that Putin needs an end to this war. And I think that Trump has the upper hand here. And I think that that's why you see him cozying more up to Zelensky.
What do you think the mood will be like with Zelensky? I think it will be quite different to last time. Like I said, I really enjoyed, because I don't entirely trust Vladimir Zelensky. I can't lie. He was corrupt before the war, and then next thing he's on the front of Time magazine. Apparently he's the most trustworthy human being on the planet. I don't buy it. I don't think he ever was. So I quite liked Donald Trump and JD Vance giving him a hard time in the Oval Office and saying, no, you show us some gratitude in my house. Did you like it, Laurie, or did you find it unprofessional?
Oh, I did not like that scene at all. As an American, I was absolutely mortified that that kind of situation happened in the Oval Office, period. But there has been a meeting between the two since that meeting, and that was after the UNGA, right? He came, met with President Trump, and that was much more cordial. Everyone was talking about it afterwards, that the tone was completely different. The temperature was turned down. And I think Zelensky, he understands who he's dealing with. He knows how to deal with Trump a lot better. He knows what buttons to push and when to back off, when to put the heat on, when to back off. But he needs his help. And President Trump made that very clear, right? If you don't have my help, you're done. And Zelensky understands that. And also politically speaking, back in his country, right? There have to be elections, democratically led elections after there is a ceasefire. But he's also going to be running for re-election, apparently. And he needs to keep everyone happy in Ukraine by showing that he is working towards a peace deal and he's not mucking it up in any way.
It was the Oval Office. I mean, how do you let somebody come into the Oval Office, speak to you the way that Zelensky spoke to President Trump and Vice President Vance? You can't let him get away with that. That's, again, the posture that I'm talking about that Trump is bringing to international global affairs. This is what it is. Now, I will say this. It's just a bit of light. somebody who's married to a Serb, Slavic culture can be very, very dry. And I think Zelensky may have learned a lesson that don't go in and be cheeky when you don't fully know the English language. So maybe you'll see a translator stepping in a little bit more in further negotiations.
And he wore a suit, didn't he, recently when he went back in the White House? Because one of the criticisms of him the first time around is that he was there in his combat
But I
fatigue.
loved his comeback to that reporter who said, "Oh, you're wearing a suit," and he said, "Oh, and I see you're wearing the same suit." I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Got a good laugh out of the president as well.
Yeah, well, no, I think it was important. I do think it matters, and there are parallels there because you've also got Ukraine now as a country with huge damage to its infrastructure, to its buildings.
Yep.
There will be money to be made yet again, and the reconstruction of that. You know, we're going to probably have a 15-minute city in Gaza, which is what it will be. You'll have to show your QR code in and out. It's parts of it. I hate the thought of what it's going to turn into, and Ukraine is already actually going in that same sort of way. I think they need to be watched closely. Let me know your thoughts. Saul has said, Bev Starmer in Egypt today seemed like the person you invite to a party. Just because you feel sorry for him and he's got no friends. The pictures in Egypt showed him looking so out of place. It was uncomfortable to watch. I'd love to see POTUS, that's the president, question Starmer on the reason behind his decision to recognise Palestine as a state. Starmer's an embarrassment. The world is laughing at us. And well, let me see what else you've been saying. Sorry. We'll come back to those in just a moment. I'm just going to keep them loaded, but do keep them coming. gbnews.com/your say, and we will have a quick look at them whilst we tell you what is still to come on The Late Show Live tonight.
No more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new life. Feast and dance, the deal is done.
That's the AI-generated video of what Gaza could look like as world leaders officially sign the peace deal. Will it look like that? We'll find out in just a minute. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
No more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new life. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza, #1. Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new life.
So there is a full, enormous statue of Donald Trump in gold. It was Elon Musk eating hummus, if you're listening on the radio. High-rise buildings, beautiful sea there. These are the images that Donald Trump imagined that Gaza could one day become. He posted the AI-generated clips, of course, on his Truth social platform earlier this year. And my next guest wrote a column on similar images leaked from plans circulating in the White House, saying that it lacked ethics and it was like a bad joke. So let's talk to him now. I'm delighted to speak to Fernando Murillo, an architect and urbanist who worked several times in the Gaza Strip and joins me now. Fernando, thank you so much for bringing your perspective to this. When you saw those images, the AI-generated clip on Truth Social earlier in the year, what did you think then and how do you feel about it now?
Well, I thought that was a joke, as you mentioned, but when I see it now coming through a peace process, I believe that there are a chance for really making good in Gaza.
And what would the challenges of that be from literally, not a political point of view necessarily, but from a practical point of view? How would you start to rebuild a country that's been destroyed under such circumstances?
Yeah, I think that what is very important is to be sure who is the owner of the land. You know, like any project that you want to do in practical, you need to be sure in which land you are building. So that is very important in terms of, first of all, from a practical perspective, you have an enormous amount of debris that you need to find the technology to really use these debris for construction. Secondly, you need to really repair all the humanitarian aspects because people really suffer a lot and a lot of people was killed, and it's not only construction, it's a society as such that you need to rebuild. So the humanitarian perspective on this is very important, and also to bring hope in terms that there are a plan that is that will be respected, and this plan is also bringing hope and bringing opportunities for recovering. At the moment, let's not forget that the Palestinian population was suffering for not eating, for dying, for receiving bombing, and this psychological trauma is enormous. So there should be a phase in which people is rehabilitated, and you need to build trust even to think in any plan in future. So as I said, for me, there are a hope, there are an opportunity here, but we should not underestimate the obstacles that are still there. First of all, that really the peace is respected and there are not more killing. Secondly, that there are really a serious commitment in reconstruction and not to expel people or not to give opportunity for using investment. As we know, Gaza is very valuable in terms of the location, the natural resources, and all that the plan recognizes, and will not be fair to expel people, not by force now, perhaps through economical measure like providing bonds or providing finance to invite people to live.
Yeah. Okay, Fernando, thank you so much. Fernando Murillo there, an architect and urbanist who knows very well the challenges that do lie ahead in building that particular area. Let's talk to my panel again, Executive Director at Unleash Prosperity, Tim Dosha, and former Obama Policy Advisor and Principal LFW Strategies, Laurie Watkins. Tim, I would love to see this area rejuvenated in that way, because as we've discussed tonight, the positives all around the world will be felt in every single country. Could it be the next Dubai?
Yeah. Growth. That's hope. I mean, it's a theme that I keep seeing here is hope. And that growth, I mean, look, rebuilding Gaza alone, estimated World Bank, the UN estimate about $50 billion. That's 37.5 billion pounds. Mm-hmm. That's a massive, massive price tag to rebuild Gaza for what it was. But the investment that is going to come through that, through this pro-growth mindset that President Trump cast that vision with, think about this. The GDP of Palestinian territories, think about this, 11 million pounds. Okay, I'm sorry, 11 billion pounds. That's the GDP. Think about what that is if you allow the growth to come in that we're projecting. That is prosperity beyond all measure. By the way, Israel's GDP, 370 billion pounds. It's dwarfing the Palestinians. So I just want to, I know there's a lot of numbers, it's hard to track that, Bev, but I think it's important to throw out the opportunity that exists to give the Palestinians a leg to stand on when it comes to competing in the global economic scene.
Yeah, Laurie, it's nothing controversial in that, is there, I don't think?
No, but I would like to see, before any kind of development of any high-rises or any luxury hotels, etc., that the basic necessities that Palestinians need that has been destroyed, hospitals, schools, mosques, churches, because there's also a Christian population that lives in Palestine. Also, running water. Right? Having clean water, having electricity, having all of these basic necessities that we take for granted that we have, that is what I truly believe and hope is the foundation for what is built in Palestine.
But that comes from getting Hamas out of power, because Hamas is the reason why hospitals are used as targets. It's the reason why there's no clean water, what UNRWA has done there and that Hamas squanders. I mean, it is absolutely crucial what Israel did to remove Hamas from power, because they are the ones standing in the way of the Palestinian people having those sky rises. And I think that President Trump and Netanyahu deserve a lot of credit for leveling the playing field finally and giving Gaza. Now, they can do what they want with it. It's theirs. But I think that there's an actual chance here if you remove Hamas fully.
And we were talking about developers, right? That these are business people. You mentioned that a lot on your show. And how this is different, that the people at the negotiating table, they come from very different backgrounds. They're not diplomats. They're not traditional politicians, right? Just the removal of the debris alone, what I read earlier today was just the amount of metal that needs to be removed is equivalent to 6 Eiffel Towers, okay?
Wow.
Talking about millions of tons of debris, of construction that all of this needs to be removed before there can be any development. So these folks are in the business of doing that, so I will hand it to them that I hope that they can do this as quickly as humanly possible so that reconstruction could begin.
Do you think there'll be a lot of criticism if it turns out that Jared Kushner or any of the Trump family.
100%.
You know where I'm going with this. If there is any sense in which they make any sort of profit from this.
You saw the Arab leaders already say that is non-negotiable. For them to even come to the table, they said, you are not going to take over this land and use it as your own. The Palestinians are going to have a say-so in this, and that is what has to be worked out.
Yeah.
Is how are they going to have a say-so? Who is going to be governing them? It's not going to be Hamas, obviously.
Well, hold
so
on
who's
a sec.
going to come in and step in and do that?
Okay, so would you rather have Hamas and their billions, the leaders with their billions of dollars where they're not even living in Gaza, they're living in Qatar, they're living there on private jets flying back and forth, or would you rather have Jared Kushner developing something? I'm sorry. I don't want to say impropriety. I absolutely agree that you got to watch out for that. But I definitely think that we need to bring in other visions and other people into this region, and you can't rely on just them to do it because we know what happens.
I don't think I would resent them a penny of it, frankly. If they've been in and they've saved lives, they've reunited these families, if they want to in some way make some money out of this, I wouldn't resent them for doing that.
Plus, it's not like you're getting a sweetheart. I mean, there will be bids on these contracts.
Yeah.
Many people will want this, and if they come in and come out with the best bid, that is fine. We're going to get fair market value.
Yeah.
If you're getting a sweetheart deal, I'm out. I don't want that.
100% that. Exactly that. You're absolutely right. If there's any sort of corruption that goes on, if you push to the top of the queue or you're getting preferential treatment because you have to have been involved with this administration, then no, I think you're right. That is not business. That is corruption. But they will be accused of that, whatever they do, won't they? Do you think, Laurie?
Well, people are accusing the president in our own country, right? So I think that, yes, if that's going on over there, that it could be an easy scapegoat to throw the president and his family under the bus. But I just want to see it redeveloped, and I want to see these people be able to go back into homes that want to stay there, and that they have the ability to do that, and they can have some sort of semblance of a real life that's not under occupation, that is not, running from bombs every single second of every day. They don't even have the ability to have any crops. They have no land, no resources to even grow their own food, etc. So we're talking, I'll go back to bare necessities that I care about has to be at the foundation before any kind of redevelopment, any kind of high rises, luxury hotels, all of that to make this the Riviera.
Elon Musk eating hummus.
Yes. Exactly.
Paul at home has said, evening Paul, thank you for staying with us. Gaza, it's the end of the beginning, but just the start of the beginning of the end. There's a long way to go before it is all finally over.
We are at the 5-yard line here.
We are on the Now, that's such an Americanism. My audience won't understand that.
I think we're a little bit further than the 5-yard line here.
Okay, so the 5-yard line is from American football.
Football, right.
Gridiron.
And that's your first bit. Well, it's not proper football, is it? You call it football.
Okay, I'll give you a first down.
No, it's the real football.
No.
It is the real football.
If your viewers understand football, American football, I think they do. The NFL is pretty big over there, right?
Yeah.
It's a first down. I'll give them that. We're not at the 5-yard line. We're at a first down here. But there's a lot, we don't know the details, like we were just talking about earlier in the program. We don't know the details yet, and that has to be sorted out before I think anyone can completely claim victory here.
And the delineation of the areas is where what I think is
drawing the lines.
Drawing the lines.
Absolutely.
Is who is going to live where.
Correct.
Where do those boundaries lie? Because do you know what? That's where this all started.
Yes, it has.
That is where this all started. After the Second World War was about where the boundaries are drawn. And I have a terrible feeling that that is going to become the sticking point yet again. And maybe that is where incentives with building projects, with land delineation, with development, maybe that's where that will all get ironed out.
I think people are talking about, she's talking about a Jared Kushner or Trump family member being involved in this. I just want the Bidens Israelis to stay so far away from anything going on in this region right now, especially Hunter, Hunter for 10% for the big guy. That is an example of this, and that's the kind of thing that I want to see. So far away from the redevelopment of Gaza, and that is...
You're so far from any part of this conversation, I would say.
Well, don't worry, I'm sure the Bidens will be involved in rebuilding Ukraine in some way if we're not careful. They'll probably be there with Tony Blair.
Yes.
Right, more fun still to come on The Late Show Live tonight. The Guardian newspaper is leading with the truce, bringing joy as Israelis and Palestinians are freed. Seeing the pictures there, child in the middle, absolutely jubilant, looking up to the sky. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. It's a dull start for many of us, and that's the way it's likely to continue through the rest of the day, with high pressure in charge, but that high pressure trapping a lot of low cloud, even some drizzle and some mist. But it's not cloudy everywhere. There are some decent breaks for, say, parts of West Wales, the southwest, as well as central and western Scotland. In fact, that's where the lion's share of sunshine will be heading into the afternoon. The thickest cloud towards the east and the southeast, where there'll also be some drizzly showers from time to time. Temperatures under the thick cloud, 14 to 16 Celsius, but where we get some sunshine coming through, could get up to the high teens in places, for example, parts of western Scotland, although the north of Scotland subject to cloudier skies and some light showers from time to time, particularly for Shetland and Orkney. 11 Celsius as we end the day here. A lot of clear skies, though, remaining through the Highlands and to the Western Isles as well. Blue skies, beautiful afternoon and evening to come. But for much of the Midlands, the south and east of England, that's where the thickest cloud will remain. Some cloud breaks towards western fringes, and where we do get cloud breaks overnight, temperatures will fall into the mid or even low single figures, perhaps a touch of frost in places, even some mist and fog patches by dawn. But for many, we keep the cloud, and that cloud will continue to give some light showers, particularly through the North Sea coast and into the English Channel coast as we start off Wednesday. But Wednesday starts similar to Thursday, with a lot of low cloud around, that low cloud drifting somewhat aimlessly across the country. Some reasonable cloud breaks, some sunshine coming through in the south of England, south and west Wales and northern Scotland. But elsewhere, it's simply another cloudy day with temperatures a little bit lower compared with Tuesday, mid-teens for many of us.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. I am Bev Turner. We're just commenting on how awful the weather looks there in the UK. I'm ever so sorry about that. Mind you, it wasn't very good in the DC either today.
Not much better here.
It rained all day today.
Umbrellas all day.
Right, let's take a look at some of the newspaper front pages from the UK. The Guardian is leading on truce brings joy as Israelis and Palestinians are freed. The photographs from this day are absolutely epic. They will be memorable for decades. Independent is leading with hostages freed at last as Trump basks in praise. Some of the hostages there, top right corner, making the heart sign with their hands, lots of V for victory sign. And one of the few papers actually putting Trump on the front page, giving him the credit first and foremost. The Daily Mirror. The day we thought we would never see, of course, that is our left-leaning paper. And, of course, they never thought they'd see it because they had no faith in Donald Trump. Whereas if they'd had faith, they'd have known it was coming around the corner. They have got him on the front cover at the top there, saying there is only one way this fragile peace can hold, with Donald Trump looking very close face-to-face with Benjamin Netanyahu. And the Metro, home, and now it's time for peace. Trump's plea on Freedom Day in Middle East, home in big red capital letters. 20 Israeli hostages, of course, back with their families tonight. The I newspaper is leading with, we did not give up hope. We did not give up faith. We did not lose hope. And that is clearly a quote from presumably one of the hostages. And the New York Times, the return of Israel's living hostages from Gaza signals a time to heal. With the releases, Israelis basked in a joyous moment of unifying national redemption after months of agonizing, polarizing war. The Washington Post, world leaders discuss the future of Gaza as Israelis and Palestinians celebrate. President Donald Trump attended a summit on Gaza's future in Egypt, while Israel and Palestine celebrated the release of hostages and prisoners. And interestingly, the Washington Post going with a picture of the Palestinian people as opposed to the Israelis. Let me know your thoughts this evening, gbnews.com/your say. Let's go back to London now to comedian Leo Kearse. Leo, good to see you. I think I've recovered from my attempted translation of what was going on between Trump and Macron. We're going to look at it again in a minute, and we really will work it out. But look, it's just a matter of hours. The news media moves very fast. The temptation is to just push this story on, push it on ahead, see what happens next. But actually, let's give some credit to President Trump. The team is put around him, the people that he trusts, and it was so important to him, Leo, to get this done.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's interesting that it comes just a day or so after he was spurned for the Nobel Peace Prize, which even the woman who won, the opposition leader in Venezuela, said Trump should have won this. I mean, how many wars has he got to end? And he should get the Nobel Chemistry Prize as well for turning liberals into puddles of tears. I think, whatever your political leanings, I think this is something that people can put the politics to one side and say, yeah, Trump did an amazing thing. Who'd have thought this? Maybe he can come up to Glasgow and sort out Rangers and Celtic.
Everyone's got a list, haven't they? Let's just get Trump on board to just fix stuff, shall we? Shall we have a look at this interaction? This was another one. Okay, this is the interaction between Donald Trump and the Canadian Prime Minister, Mark Carney. Here we go. Have a look at this.
Thanks. So you going back?
I'll go back. I'm glad you upgraded me to president.
Oh, did I say? Great stuff.
That's good. I started.
We said inside.
Great stuff. That was great.
So Mark Carney says, just for you listening on the radio, you couldn't hear it. Mark Carney turns around to Trump and he said, oh, you just upgraded me to president. Because Trump had obviously called him president instead of prime minister. And he says, oh, did I? Is that what I said? And he said, yeah. He went, well, just be grateful I didn't call you governor. Which is, of course, a joke about the fact that he wants to make Canada the 51st state. It's brilliant. The guy is nearly 80. I don't know how he does it. I genuinely don't know how he does it.
He's always had this real sort of natural instinct for humour. He's like a natural stand-up comedian. I think that's why he won. Maybe that's why him and Zelensky get on so well now, because they're both stand-up comedians who are doing far too well for stand-up comedians, and frankly making the rest of us look bad. But I remember when he was asked about an interviewer said, Mr. Trump, you called women pigs, you called them fat and dogs, and he said, no, only Rosie O'Donnell.
Which, at the time, I was one of those people. Was that in his first term? Should we bring in my panel? Should we bring in Tim
that was
and Laurie here?
With the Rosie O'Donnell. Yeah, the Rosie O'Donnell thing happened way before his first term, and then he said it in his first term, so he kept it going throughout the years. So
That's right. Because at the time I was one of those people that whenever Donald Trump spoke, I was one of those people who clutched their pearls and said, this is outrageous, how can this man be allowed to have power? I was one of those people. I wasn't paying attention, Leo. I didn't know where the enemy was coming from. I didn't understand what the world needed. And there are quite a few of us, actually, who hold up our hands. I've been good company. Pete Hegseth was similar to me. I'm reading his book at the moment. It's fascinating. The Secretary of State for War, as he's now called. Even J.D. Vance expressed some concerns about it. He said something like, one day I think he's Hitler and one day I think he's going to save the world. A lot of people have been on that journey with Donald Trump, Leo, and then eventually got to 2025. Hold your hands up in the air and go, he was what we needed all along. I just couldn't see it.
Yeah, he's been proven to be a visionary so many times. Remember when he said to European leaders, you shouldn't be dependent on Putin for hydrocarbons, for your oil and gas. That's giving him leverage, that's giving him power. He's going to abuse that power one day. And they laughed at him. They openly laughed at his face. You know, these European leaders said, oh no, our buddy Putin would never do that to us. And a few years later, what happens? He annexes Crimea, he invades Ukraine. So yeah, Trump, I think people need to listen to Trump a bit more and not dismiss him so much.
Laurie, do you think this today, achieving peace that no one else could, will this have more of the Trump haters today in 2025 holding their hands up and go, yeah, fair dues, he is what we need and I was wrong?
Well, I'm on your program saying that it's a win for Trump today. It's a win for America. It's a win for the world. It's a win for especially the Middle East. And it's #1 for those hostages who have been returned. So, yeah, we're hearing some silence from the other side, right?
A little bit, yeah. But I don't know, Tim. Have you heard many Democrats, like it's sort of sticking in the craw a little bit, isn't it?
I think it's sticking in the craw, but I think it's so unbelievable. I mean, you cannot deny the scenes that we saw today. We keep, not a dry eye in the room, Bev. I mean, we cannot deny what they're seeing, and I think that right now they just have to take a back seat. Don't worry, I'm sure they will be back tomorrow.
Shall we remind ourselves, just because it was so fun last time, and I think we might have worked out what they were saying now. Let's have a look at when American President Donald Trump met France's Emmanuel Macron on stage, and they had this bizarre handshake. So here we go. Leo, just talk us through what we're seeing here.
So basically you're seeing Trump, who I remember being told Trump has got small hands. That's one of the things people mocked him for. No, he's dwarfing Macron, not just in height, but also in hand size, and he's crushing him. Honestly, this is like the UFC of handshakes. He's dragging Macron into him. He's totally dominating him. It's I mean, this is the Patrick Bateman school of handshakes to subdue and subjugate an opponent.
Well, so let's lip read. Right, so Trump says to Macron, nice to see you, so you agreed, as a question. Then he says, are you being genuine? And Macron quickly replies, of course. And then Donald Trump says, okay, so now I want to know why you hurt me. I already know. And then he says, I only hurt those who hurt others. Whilst pointing at the cameras, and Macron says, we will have to see about that. You will see what is about to happen. It's mysterious. And it is the plot of a terribly written fictional book of some sort of political crime thriller. What is going to happen next, Tim?
Look, the bottom line is this. We had the UN General Assembly a couple weeks ago where basically the entire world came out and, ran roughshod over Israel and the United States saying, you got to give them a state, recognize statehood for the Palestinians. You have to do it. We're all for it. Basically undermining the entire process and work that was trying to be done, what was actually achieved today. So then you have your closest friends, the UK, France, all that, saying, oh, we're going to undermine this process here and have our own little say. And then Trump today doing it with such class and dignity and humor. I think it's perfect, and I think that the message was well received by our friends.
Yeah, it's very, very strange. I would need more time. I'm going to go to bed tonight, and I'm going to write that out as a script. I might perform it to myself in the mirror. Because I really want to get my head around what exactly was going on there, because I'm still not sure I'm clear about it. But during a meeting ahead of this summit today as well on this Gaza deal, Trump also had this moment where he met the Egyptian president, and he talks about when he first met him, and this is what he said. Have a look.
Doing very well. We're very proud of him because we knew each other from the beginning. The first time I met, it was in a hotel, and I was going to meet him, and then Hillary Clinton was following me. Remember Hillary Clinton? And he liked me so much, he never even got to see Hillary. He saw her for about 2 seconds. But he didn't really want to waste a lot of time. He knew what was going to happen.
So I don't know whether you could hear that, Laurie, but he basically says, I was there and Hillary Clinton was there. You didn't want to talk to Hillary Clinton, you just wanted to talk to me. I love it. It's just like listening. It's like listening to your parents come back from having a weekend away and telling you a slightly bonkers story about who they met on their weekend away, isn't it? And you're trying to work out, is it true or not? Have they remembered it?
And he's so
Do you like
candid.
that about him, Laurie, or not?
Yeah, Trump has a very long memory, right? He doesn't forget anything. He doesn't forget how people treat him, what they say, what they don't say, and if they decide not to meet him or not. And so, yeah, he's going to, you know, poke them in the ribs, razz them a little bit, just like he did to all these other foreign leaders, bringing up things from the past. It's part of his charm, right? It's part of his camaraderie and personality, and he gets a good laugh out of it, and the press loves it.
And Leo, like you said, he is so candid. He just doesn't care. He says exactly. I love that about him. I love people who will just say what they think.
Yeah, and sometimes you can see the people he's speaking to aren't too thrilled about it. I think it was Erdogan, Turkey's leader, who was in the hot seat at the Oval Office just a week or so ago. And Trump was like, yeah, this guy knows a lot about rigging elections. And you could see Erdogan just shrinking into his seat.
Yeah. It was brilliant. Right, now, people watching in the UK may not know, but there's a very popular show here in the US called The View, and it's a bit like Loose Women, but it's very Democrat leaning. It's incredibly left wing, if you want to use that phrase. And one of the hosts, Tim is literally shivering. One of the hosts, Alyssa Farah Griffin, once said this. It has come back to haunt her. Have a look.
My point when I say I'm not going to be apocalyptic, it's not changing a tune. It's not making every single thing a 5-alarm fire. Yeah. If he does good, if he gets the Israeli hostages out, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on the show and say, thank you for doing it. Yeah. She'll knock it right off my head. But like, you have to be able to cheer for wins when they happen and then call out relentlessly the wrongdoing. Well,
so she was saying that if he gets the hostages home, the Israeli hostages, if I've heard that correctly, fellas, she says if he does, then she will wear a MAGA hat, Laurie. That's what she was saying. So will she? Should she?
If she said that, she should. Absolutely. If she used that to get ratings or laughs or whatever on her show, yeah, you got to live up to your word, right?
Yeah.
Just like we require and ask of politicians.
Yeah. Leo, what did you think seeing that?
Well, I'm pretty sure that Hamas only released the hostages so that they could see her wearing a MAGA hat. So she's got to fulfill that deal.
Tim?
I'm pretty sure I'm a humanitarian and I don't want to see any more death. And I think if she did wear a MAGA hat, it'd be like showing Dracula the cross. And so I want to spare the women on The View from an untimely passing.
Yeah, they might replace her with another host if she does that.
Now, listen, there was a dinner tonight to celebrate our late Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher's, what would have been her 100th birthday. And former Prime Minister Boris Johnson was there, and he compared President Trump to the Iron Lady. Let's see what he said. I haven't seen this. Let's see.
I've got a feeling that this time next year, the Norwegian Nobel Committee are going to find themselves in an embarrassing position where they come under overwhelming pressure to make an award to a certain conservative politician when they still want to resist, as they did this year, with every fibre of their woke, politically correct Scandinavian being. And so I have the perfect solution for their embarrassment, because they could, of course, go for another Western leader with even more outrageously bouffant pineapple-coloured hair than the current occupant of the White House, a leader equally capable of driving the left into paroxysms of carpet-chewing frenzy as the current president, but whose credentials, if properly assessed by the Oslo Committee, are better not just than any living politician, but better than almost any politician, better than any politician I can think of in the last 50 years. If there was one Western leader who deserved the Nobel Prize for Peace, but who would, of course, never have dreamed of being so brash as to advertise her candidacy or promote her own cause, it is, of course, Margaret Hilda Thatcher.
Well, I don't know why anybody wants to listen to what Boris Johnson has to say. Frankly, I disagree with him on everything, and I think a lot of the problems our countries are in are entirely traced back to his desk. But it's interesting to hear there, Leo, what he's saying about comparing her to Margaret Thatcher, comparing Trump to Margaret Thatcher. Are there similarities? I think the only one I can think of is just like you said, it's the candidness. It's a straightforward, totally no holds barred. Very different style of delivery, but you always got the sense of absolute authenticity.
Yeah, and also there's the as well as the avoidance of wokeism, there's the sort of nurturing business and providing an environment where business can thrive. I mean, the reason the business fails, we've got stagnant economies in Europe and in Britain compared to America, is that we're burdened by all these regulations and obligations. Businesses just can't take risks. I think Thatcher was great, and I'm from a coal mining area. People used to say to me, don't you hate Margaret Thatcher? Being from a coal mining area. It's like, no, I'm 6'6". Like, her closing the coal mines was the best thing that ever happened to me. Can you imagine me in a coal mine just banging my head every 2 steps? Like, it's fantastic. I'd way rather, work above ground in the light, typing on a laptop. That's progress. You know what I mean?
That's what a real man looks like, Leo Kurtz. You're like a real man in your flowery shirt. I won't have anybody say anything opposite to that. But Tim, that idea of just capitalism, let the market go, free market, let the market work its magic. That's what they both represent, right? Trump and Thatcher.
I agree with that, and I think that Lady Thatcher showed the world, in partnership with her buddy Ronald Reagan, that look, you got to look at things in a certain way. We win, they lose. That's talking about we, as in the people who make up the great nation of the United States of America, as well as the UK. When you're going up against somebody who wants to see you gone, you must win, they must lose, they must lose. And I think that capitalism is the great equalizer in all of it. And that's what we're talking about in developing the Gaza Strip. We're talking about capitalism coming in. We're talking about introducing that to an area that has long needed that. And I think that that's going to be the death knell for Hamas. It's going to be we win, they lose.
Laurie, when you listen to that and you think about working for President Obama, would he have had anything in common whatsoever with Margaret Thatcher and Donald Trump in terms of economic policy, at least?
Well, yeah, and he also did create the Affordable Care Act, which provides over 23 million people in this country with health care. So it's something that the Republicans are trying to dismantle, but they don't even have a plan to replace it. So they've had 15 years to do that. And that, health care is pretty important in this country, brings people together. Also, one of the top issues for Americans here in the U.S.
Tim?
The problem with what she just said was she's dead wrong. It's the Unaffordable Care Act. Look at the 70% increase in the cost of health care for those who are on the quote-unquote Obamacare exchanges. It is a freight train running out of control, and it only serves to profit one person and one person alone, and that is Mr. Fat Cat, who manages the insurance companies, getting all the money that the Democrats want to spend on these subsidies. I'm sorry, this is absolutely nothing like Obama. This is free market capitalism. Thatcher and Reagan were nothing like Obama, and that's just what it is.
I don't know about you, Leo, but I find it quite refreshing to watch Americans fighting over healthcare, because it's certainly something that we in the UK, in terms of the NHS, have to deal with all the time. I'm glad it's not just us talking about how much taxpayers' money should be spent on keeping people well who can't take responsibility for their health. I look to the US and wonder whether we should take a... Go on.
The NHS should be a warning to America. I mean, I think, socialised healthcare, it can be a good thing if it's managed well, but what we've got now is this cumbersome leviathan that sucks in all this money, doesn't even treat people. I mean, in the UK now, if anybody who can afford it gets private healthcare because you want to be treated now, not in 3 years' time. And also, we've got a big problem with Islamists in our hospitals. And I mean, if I was Jewish, I wouldn't feel comfortable going to an NHS hospital for treatment, knowing that my life would be in the hands of somebody who's been posting on Facebook, posting on Twitter how much they hate Jews.
Oh, Laurie, go on. You want to come in?
So I will just say, for those who are pretty familiar with the polarized Marjorie Taylor Greene here of the MAGA crowd, that when don't take it from me, take it from Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has been out blasting Speaker Mike Johnson and Majority Leader in the Senate Thune about not coming to the table about health care, because she even understands how the rate and premiums are going to go up by threefold.
She is a rogue.
Don't take it from me.
And you
take it from Marjorie Taylor.
You know it. And the people that benefit the most here are the insurance companies. It's why they wanted Obamacare to begin with, and they're making good. The Democrats are making good on their promises to enrich the insurance companies while they take our healthcare system closer to the NHS. By the way, the NHS lost 3 of my crucial test results when I did use it. Not very happy with the NHS results.
Well, Leo, if you've got time, can you dig out his test results while you're there in London, please? I'll give him something for you to do anyway. Thank you all so much. And we should just clarify to our audience who don't know who Marjorie Taylor Greene is. She is the straight-talking, distinctive blonde Republican politician who told Emily Maitlis of Newsnight to F off. And for that alone, she would always get my vote. I've loved having you all on here tonight. Leo Kearse, such a joy, as always. I might call you so we can act this Macron-Trump scene tonight, because I'm still not happy about all of that. Laurie Watkins, thank you so much for joining me, and Tim as well. Thank you very much. Tim Dosha there with me tonight on The Late Show Live. Thank you all for spending your evening with me. I'm sorry I didn't get to many of your messages, but I will go and have a cup of hot chocolate. I'll put my nightie on and I'll read them when I get into bed. I will see you back here tomorrow. You've actually got me now until the weekend, because Ben Leo is actually going back home. So make sure you join me tomorrow night in the UK at midnight. It will be 7 p.m. Eastern here in Washington, DC. Sleep well.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. It's a dull start for many of us, and that's the way it's likely to continue through the rest of the day, with high pressure in charge, but that high pressure trapping a lot of low cloud, even some drizzle and some mist. But it's not cloudy everywhere. There are some decent breaks for, say, parts of West Wales, the southwest, as well as central and western Scotland. In fact, that's where the lion's share of sunshine will be heading into the afternoon. The thickest cloud towards the east and the southeast, where there'll also be some drizzly showers from time to time. Temperatures under the thick cloud, 14 to 16 Celsius, but where we get some sunshine coming through, could get up to the high teens in places, for example, parts of western Scotland, although the north of Scotland subject to cloudier skies and some light showers from time to time, particularly for Shetland and Orkney. 11 Celsius as we end the day here. A lot of clear skies though remaining through the Highlands and to the Western Isles as well. Blue skies, beautiful afternoon and evening to come. But for much of the Midlands, the south and east of England, that's where the thickest cloud will remain. Some cloud breaks towards western fringes, and where we do get cloud breaks overnight, temperatures will fall into the mid or even low single figures, perhaps a touch of frost in places, even some mist and fog patches by dawn. But for many, we keep the cloud, and that cloud will continue to give some light showers, particularly through the North Sea coast and into the English Channel coast as we start off Wednesday. But Wednesday starts similar to Thursday, with a lot of low cloud around, that low cloud drifting somewhat aimlessly across the country. Some reasonable cloud breaks, some sunshine coming through in the south of England, south and west Wales and northern Scotland. But elsewhere, it's simply another cloudy day with temperatures a little bit lower compared with Tuesday, mid-teens for many of us.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from